Best site for English to Hindi translation. A professor site waited for his students to arrive at his class after the bell. He was busy grading new memos when he heard a knock at the door. When he opened it, a handsome stranger wearing a leather jacket stood there, asking for help with the grading process. The man asked the professor to let him inside so he could see what was taking him so long. The professor reluctantly invited him in, then realized that it was impossible that someone like this could be his first student and decided to read a book on computer programming instead of helping him. As I am selling some of my books, an old friend called me over to his house. He was working on a job his company didn't want him to do. He was a major leaguer and the trade-off involved giving up his house, which the company had bought from him. It seemed that this wasn't leaving his hands until he got out of it, but it would be too complicated for him unless I took care of it for him. When I arrived at the house, I found a seemingly well-mannered dog on the porch with what looked like a scolding pelican hanging around its neck. A second one sat under the house waiting for me to bring him food. It kept stretching itself out when I talked to it and warning me away from its presence. At first I felt uncomfortable taking care of this creature because they were rather aggressive in nature, but at last they showed me signs of approaching me, so I decided to take them inside with me as well. The problem was getting people to use my new site while they were there. There were lots of free accounts over at Google/Bing, but there were no real place for these people to go once they logged on. That meant it would not be easy or cheap to reach users at all hours of the day from multiple locations that didn't. I was involved in a major investigation and the site I was looking up was plagiarized by a cleverer researcher. I was told that the site was fake and investigated it to be true and found out it wasn't. The clever researcher believed that any site with a URL would always be original, so he created another site. The plagiarist told me that if I said something about Hindi, then he could plagiarize Hindi for me. So I went with him to find a good source of Hindi words, and the problem is, I'm well aware of what's going on there but I don't understand any Hindi words. Can you help? The clever researcher took me to this website, which is 100% original content, but it looked like an advertisement for a product.